Welcome to Meet the Host Live. My name is Michael Rippe, and this is Meet the Host. And this is another edition of a Facebook Live version. Today, in studio, right next to me, host Josh Rodriguez.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
This is the man that is host of many things, but right now we are promoting all of his stuff, but he is the host of the Dime NBA podcast.
Yes.
And what else?
I am on Straight Talk with Ross Matthews. I am a part-time host for WTF, which is a trivia game show that you can download on, right now on your Apple store. What are you looking at, Mike?
No network connection.
Oh, okay. I host Red Bull Music, and I also host for the Good News TV show as a sports anchor.
So, Josh Rodriguez is all over your TVs. I want to make sure our connection is better for this Facebook Live. All right.
There we go.
So if you guys join us at any point, you feel free to add questions, comments, tell us what you think about Meet the Host, Josh Rodriguez, his shows, and you told everyone about your fantasy show?
Oh, that's right. I am also a host for Fantasy Smack Talk, their YouTube channel. I host a show called The Flex every week. I tell you who to start in your flex position if you play fantasy football.
This is a man that is into all sorts of sports. He is a host on many things, and also you told him about Ross Matthews?
Yes, I produce Ross Matthews' podcast, Straight Talk with Ross Matthews. I'm also kind of like a quasi-personality on it. Every once in a while, I show up on the show.
And your name is now J-Rod.
J-Rod. They call me J-Rod on the show,
They
yes.
call him J-Rod. That's right. J-Rod, short for Josh Rodriguez. And on Twitter, what is your Twitter handle?
Twitter at Josh_Rodriguez_. Same as Instagram. So if you're an Instagram user, at Josh_Rodriguez_.
Make sure to go check out his podcast on the iTunes Store, the Dime NBA podcast, which, in fact, I was actually one of your first guests. That's right?
Yeah, Mike was my second guest, actually.
That's right. That's why
he was guest number 2.
And that's why I say his podcast is good, and it could have been great.
It could have been. I messed up.
No. He's just about 20 episodes in the first season, right?
Yeah, 20 episodes. I wanted to start the season towards the playoffs. I mean, I had an idea during the whole regular season that I wanted my own podcast. Didn't do it, and then I started it during the playoffs. I got 20 episodes in, almost 20 episodes in. So, once the NBA season starts up again, the Dime will start up once again, and I'll have more guests, including Mike.
I would love to come back. Now, Josh has all sorts of guests on that show. It's a great listen if you're an NBA fan, a sports fan, very knowledgeable, very informative type of information, all about the NBA. And again, I checked out his new Flex show on YouTube, and the comments were very, very nice.
Were they?
They said you're a natural.
Oh, nice.
They said
Thanks,
he
guys.
knew what he was talking about. So if you're doing fantasy football and you want information and help, this is the man, J-Rod. He'll help you.
Yeah, I'll do my best.
So, you can follow me at Mike Rips on social media, and you can follow the show, Meet the Host. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, where all of our posts and shows are at, as well as, of course, our Facebook page. We like to do these Facebook Lives, go live, and give you a little, in the moment instead of edited version of the show as well. But we'll edit it down so that everyone can hear a condensed version, and it will also be turned into podcasts. We're now a podcast in the iTunes Store. Check us out, Meet the Host, the podcast. If you're in your car and you can't do video, you can still get the audio and hear everything great about hosts around the country.
There we go.
So let's start off, J-Rod, Josh Rodriguez, with when did you begin hosting?
Okay, so I hosted a music video countdown show when I lived in New York for 3 seasons, starting in, I think, 2010, 2011, 2012, called the Indie Music Video Countdown Show. And it just kind of fell into my lap. I didn't really think that I would be a host afterwards. It's just something that I did. Got a full-time job afterwards, and then ended up moving to Los Angeles and kind of became a host again. It was interesting. I didn't even know that this whole world existed where you can make a living being a host doing different things until I moved out to Los Angeles and joined AfterbuzzTV, where I met you.
That's right. Josh and I actually hosted shows together at AfterbuzzTV.
That's right.
How did you find out about AfterBuzz, or how did you get to, you came out to LA and obviously you found out about hosting. What's that like?
So I was going to move to Los Angeles for music production, which is the reason why I did, but I was looking for jobs, and I became obsessed with the show Mr. Robot. Mm-hmm. So on YouTube one night I was just typing Mr. Robot things, and I saw an after show from AfterbuzzTV of Mr. Robot, and I was like, I could do this. Like, I'm going to apply. I'm moving out to Los Angeles. Let me do this. So I applied on their YouTube channel. I got an email address, and they accepted me.
Amazing.
It was just stroke of luck, to be honest with you. I mean,
That's where you started. And
Yeah.
of course, now you've come a long way from where you started. You've
Yeah.
got all the different shows you've talked about. What's your favorite part about hosting?
I like meeting people. I like entertaining people. I like the community of hosts. Like, for instance, like you and I, like we genuinely support each other. This is not something that's fake. I mean, Mike is a supporter of mine. I'm a supporter of Mike's, and I have a lot of people who support me, and I support a lot of people. It seems like, you know, the entertainment industry can be very fickle, but I feel like a lot of hosts genuinely root for each other. I like that a lot, and I like just entertaining people and being able to be myself for a living if I can get to that point.
Like that, and I like what he just said, because what we're trying to do at Meet the Host is exactly what you're talking about, supporting hosts of all manners in their aspirations and their ability to get out there, whether they're brand new or they've been in hosting for years, decades. We don't just want you to be in the seat where we flip the script on you and ask you questions, but we want to give you the ability as a host to not only tell your story, but also share in the benefits of a program like Meet the Host, and your ability to be a part of Meet the Host is out there. So if you're interested and you're just getting into the industry, please contact us, let us know. And if you've been in the industry for a long time and you want to sit in the seat that the man J-Rod is in right now, and you want to be a guest on the Meet the Host, let us know too, because the advice that not only Josh has already provided in this episode, but that past guests and past hosts have provided is instrumental in helping new hosts and current hosts remember what makes them good hosts, what makes a host good, and that's what my next question is. What does a host need to focus on to be someone that's good?
You got to be able to connect with the audience. I feel like just being yourself does that. I mean, we connect throughout our lives, you know, and I connect through a sense of humor, being able to relate to people, and you have to take the same things you use to connect with people in life and kind of transfer it on camera, if that makes any sense. So in essence, being yourself.
That authenticity that Josh is talking about comes through all the time when we are talking to hosts. They continuously tell me and other hosts that Meet the Host that authenticity, be yourself, because otherwise who's ever watching or listening can tell that you're not.
Yeah, you just come across as phony, and it's very obvious.
Yeah. What's your favorite part about hosting?
The actual job itself. I just like being able to be myself in front of a camera and have that be a job, if that makes any sense. Or talking basketball. Like, I love talking basketball. You're telling me I can talk basketball in front of a camera and have that be a job? It's amazing. I mean, I have so many different interests, and you know, if I get to go on camera and talk about them and get paid for it, or have an opportunity to get more exposure because of it, I don't think anything's better than that.
But there you go.
Yeah.
Josh threw in the basketball part, liking talking basketball.
Yeah.
I do have some basketball questions for Josh. If you're out there watching or listening and you have a basketball question, you can hit up Josh at any time. He'd be more than glad to not only talk, but answer your basketball questions. On the flip side about hosting, is there an area of hosting that you're not a fan of, or your least favorite part?
Yeah, I don't like I don't like the social media game of it, particularly Instagram. I love Twitter. I'm a big fan of Twitter, but I'm on Twitter either way. But I feel like we as hosts have this pressure to keep up an image, to be relevant on social media, and it kind of bothers me. It's like, you know, I don't want to post a picture every day of me looking into the sunset and with an inspirational quote. Like, you know what I mean? But like, in some sort of ways, we kind of have to, depending on what you're going for, what kind of hosting jobs you want, and I totally get it. I just think sometimes it takes away from the authenticity of everything, and it's unfortunate because it's a necessary evil. Like, I've lost jobs because I didn't have the social media following that they wanted, or the image that they wanted on social media. So it's like, you know, you kind of have to play the game.
That's right. You sort of do have to at least be on social media, whether or not you kind of would or would not in past eras. I think in 2018, being available and active to your viewers, your fans, your friends, and all those people. The accessibility nowadays is really necessary, even though it is a necessary evil, as you say sometimes, because it can be difficult to, you know, whether or not keep it PC, say something that maybe not everyone agrees with, and then also make sure that you're giving the fans what they want. And then if you are active on social media, it almost feels like it can never be too much in the sense of a fan's idea. They always want more and more, and then you say, what's the line? And it's a difficult one. You say you lost jobs nowadays because you were not maybe having the numbers that supposedly someone else had. So it is a tough part of it, but in 2018, I think a necessary part, and that's why we had to promote where to find each other.
Right. Now, if you have a show like Meet the Host, you do have to promote. I'm just talking strictly from a personal standpoint. Like my personal Josh Rodriguez Instagram, I have to promote myself, and I'm not comfortable doing it as much as other hosts are.
It can be difficult sometimes if you're not someone that's normally used to, like, if you have some humility or you maybe are a little bit more humble, let's say, it might be difficult to have to throw yourself out there frequently and say, look at me, look at me. So I totally understand what you're talking about. Josh, have you ever had a guest that was just so difficult?
No, I really haven't had a guest that was that difficult. I've been on panels or shows where the conversation wasn't really working, but I wouldn't say there was one person in particular where I was like...
What do you do in this scenario for a host that's watching or people wondering, what do you do in this situation when maybe the conversation's not flowing, or how do you handle that?
Me personally, I just pretend like it's not awkward. You kind of just have to keep the conversation going, find ways to get them involved or bring something out of them. I wouldn't say get a little more animated, but just basically do your best to make sure that the audience does not see what's happening, because that will kill any type of show.
So on the flip side of that, I want to ask you, not about hard guests, but let's be easy. What makes a guest easy to talk to? Someone that is a great guest, let's say, to interview.
Someone who's willing to have conversation and answer open-ended questions. I mean, you have to have someone who's going to, it's like tennis. We were talking about this before the show, like volley back and forth. So I say something and I leave something open-ended for you to say, and then you answer that and you leave something open-ended for me to say, and it's just a free-flowing conversation where it's not just like yes and no's and short answers. Someone who's willing to give you everything that they're thinking of. Something like that,
Yeah, I think that ties into the authenticity that what Josh has already spoken of. That makes a great host. Any special way that you prepare before a hosting gig, event, job, role?
Yeah, it depends on what you're hosting, but I think a general thing is research. So if I'm doing a music show and I have musicians there, I need to do my research on these musicians. If I'm doing an event, I need to know who the sponsor is, everything about the sponsor, what the event's about. You need to do your research and know what you're talking about, or you're like a fool. If you're interviewing somebody one-on-one, you need to know their career. You need to know where they were born. There's just certain things you need to know if you're going to have a conversation with them.
I like that. And I want to further what you're saying by not just the research. You can never be over-prepared.
No, absolutely not.
You may do research and prepare, and then you sit down and have the conversation, and almost 99% of the stuff that you research or prepared doesn't even come up because maybe your conversation went a different way, but you can never be too prepared. You can always be too underprepared, and you don't want to be in that situation.
Absolutely correct.
So research for anyone that's an aspiring host or a host, doesn't matter who you are, always should research so you never come out on the short end where you don't have information to provide or aren't aware of what's going on in the current guest or host life. Are you someone that prefers a shorter segment, a longer segment? I mean, hosting comes in all varieties, you know, and there's different qualities for each. What do you prefer?
Now, as a host or as a listener?
As a host.
As a host, it depends what I'm doing. Like, if I'm giving, like, information where my fantasy football segment, I'd rather that be short. Just get to the point. I'm going to tell you who to start in your flex. Here's what it is. I'm not going to give you a whole breakdown or reason why for an hour. Like, that's cool. But, for instance, when I'm doing Straight Talk with Ross Matthews, that's a 2-hour show sometimes. I love that because there's different things you can get to. There's different things you can talk about. There's games. So, I mean, it just depends on what content I am providing.
Depends on the content you're providing, which then in turn decides whether a shorter or longer segment will be good. And you've done both. I mean, I listen to your podcast on a regular, and that would be a longer segment. Those are about an hour. And then on the Flex, on YouTube, you're doing a quick minute, right?
Yeah.
It's about a minute and a half, minute, 2 minutes.
Yeah, they're like 4 or 5 segments, a minute or two each. Yeah.
Real quick hitting. And what do you think nowadays a listener or someone watching prefers?
I think it depends on what content they like to watch. I mean, someone who's looking for fantasy football advice just wants it now, wants it immediately. But there are people out there who listen to documentary podcasts or, you know, science podcasts, and they want to be able to drive to their job and have an hour of just information thrown at them. So it just depends on the listener. I think both work well.
You're preparing for the Flex, you're preparing for Dime, you're preparing to interview someone at one of your programs. How do you develop your questions?
Research. It goes back to research. You see what this person's about, what they're doing, what events are coming up in their life, and you just generally draw questions from there, also relating to the show that you're doing. It kind of just naturally happens.
I like that. I always wonder, am I developing my questions the right way, or can I get assistance? If someone's assisting you, how do you feel about that with your questions?
Oh, I think assistance is fine. I mean, anybody would help you. Don't ever turn down help, ever.
So, you started not in the hosting game.
Right.
You started in music, right?
Yeah, I moved out to Los Angeles to pursue a career in music. And at the same time, I did apply to AfterBuzz, but I didn't know there was this whole world of hosts who have a potential to be a host for their career. I had no idea this existed.
So what I want to know, and I'm sure this is a little bit unique, how does the music industry or your music background influence your hosting?
So I was a recording engineer in Brooklyn for a while, and it let me talk to different people. I met different people from different walks of life, different music backgrounds, and when you're a recording engineer, you need to provide them with what they want, and they don't necessarily know how to communicate with you as far as your terminology as an engineer. So you have to figure out ways how to communicate, and I think hosting a lot is about communication. So being able to bring the best out of a guest or the best out of another panelist without making it obvious or without making it awkward. And I think having that communication training, I guess, as an engineer helped me as a host.
It's a different background when you're coming from the music industry. This is a question I don't ask all the time on the show, but I'd like to know from your point of view. If you knew at birth that you wanted to be a host, how would you have changed your upbringing as a child? Would you have done anything differently? Or do you think everything happens for a reason?
I would have... I'm actually one of those people who doesn't... I won't get into too deep into that. I think I would have been more well-rounded. Right now, I'm huge. I was huge into sports growing up, and I think I kind of cornered myself where I can talk not only sports, but that's my thing, sports. And I understand everyone has their own brand and their own genre they like to talk about, but I would love to talk politics, which I think I can do to a certain extent, music, which I can do. But then there's like science that interests me now, but I don't feel like I'm smart enough to talk science on a podcast. There's history that interests me now, but I don't think I'm smart enough to talk about history on a podcast. Or get jobs, like being on the History Channel would be cool, but I'm not qualified, if that makes any sense. So I wish I was more well-rounded. I wish I was more well-rounded growing up rather than being so sports-oriented.
Well, being sports-oriented, then what is your dream hosting role?
So I would love to have like a Colin Cowherd type show where it's like 2 or 3 hours of just talking sports. Maybe a little more lighthearted than what he does because he's by himself like on this spaceship. I don't know if you see his set, but his set is ridiculous. It's like a huge desk and he's talking sports and giving his opinions on everything. But something amongst those lines where I'm talking, have my own radio show that's kind of like a TV show at the same time. Would you prefer to be on the radio? Would you prefer to be simulcast to video as well, which is a big thing in the sports industry, sports talk game nowadays? Someone that's super big into sports. Who are your in the hosting industry? Where do you look for role models? I mean, you say Colin Cowherd. Do you have others? Colin Cowherd's a huge one. I was a huge fan of Stuart Scott because he was hilarious, but at the same time, he could do an emotional piece, which I loved about him, and he was funny. I just thought he was a great human being. May he rest in peace. But working with Ross Matthews has opened my eyes to a whole other side of the industry. I mean, podcasting, watching him do his podcast is amazing. I mean, it's 2 hours. Every week it's different. He has recurring segments, but at the same time is able to keep it fresh and come up with different segments to the point where I'm producing it. I'm like, if I ever do a podcast, I want something very similar to this.
What are the attributes that you say Ross Matthews does a great job? He's not in sports. So what are the attributes that you see from Ross that can basically go across the board to all hosts or to successful hosts, to good hosts, to hosts that bring in listeners, keep the viewers, and grow?
Well, what are he's really quick on his feet. He respects everybody who works with him. On top of that, he is very creative, and he lets other people shine too. So it's his podcast, but he also recognizes that, hey, Nikki Boyer's our host on the podcast. Nikki has a segment right here. She's hilarious. Like, let her be hilarious. It helps the show. It's almost like a basketball team. If all 5 players are doing well, your team's going to be great. And I think Ross really recognizes that, and he treats everybody with respect, and he lets everybody shine. And that's really important to me. I
like the analogy to a basketball team, and not just because we're talking sports, but because independently you could do great, but as a team you can do even better.
Exactly.
If everyone independently is crushing it and doing great, your team as a whole is going to be doing even better. Whereas if independently one person is kind of doing it all themselves and trying to be the star, they could be playing with some players that are against the team, not on it, and then your team is then going to be affected.
Exactly.
So I like that part. Now, this is a good time where Ross, you were on Ross's pod as
Yeah.
J-Rod.
Yes.
And we are openly inviting Ross Matthews to
Come on,
join
Ross.
Meet the Host. He's had all these great things to say about you. We'd love to hear from you and give the listeners another view and of someone that's doing it very successfully for a long time, and hear what you have to say to the listeners and viewers out there from Meet the Host. So this is an open invitation to Ross Matthews to join us at Meet the Host and tell us good stories about J-Rod when he's not in the seat. And again, that's the Straight Talk with Ross Matthews, and that's a podcast.
Yes, it's a podcast.
And we talked about you being the host of The Flex on Fantasy Smack Talk, also at Fantasy Advice on Twitter. And then what about this game show that you're associated with?
So I'm pretty much a part-time host for this game show right now. It's called WTF. If you go onto the Apple store, I think it's only Apple users. Sorry, Android users.
Not yet.
But if you just type in WTF live game show, it's basically HQ, but with media, with videos and things like that. So
you win money and stuff?
You win cryptocurrency.
Wow.
Yeah, cryptocurrency.
Okay. So you win cryptocurrency, and this is in the Apple iTunes store?
Yes.
Only for Apple phones, and you can get cryptocurrency if you win.
Yes.
It's every day?
Right now, Monday through Friday at 6 o'clock Eastern.
And it's WTF.
WTF. That's right.
Get out there, get ahead.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a great game. It's fun to play. It's fun to host.
You're the host every now and then?
Every now and then. I have been flying back and forth. To be honest with you, I don't know if I'm going to go back and host there. But, I mean, it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun. I think it's a great trivia game. HQ is cool, but it doesn't have, like, YouTube videos. It doesn't incorporate different types of things. And WTF does. So I would highly recommend you downloading it if you can.
Really like it. So I asked you kind of your dream hosting role, and that was to be in the model of Colin Cowherd.
Yes.
Sports centric, obviously. What's your feeling about? Do you ever want to be an anchor on a sports show, like Sports Center or the football pregame show? Or,
yeah.
What do you feel about those type of?
Yeah, as an analyst, but that's the thing. The analyst positions go to players, so it's kind of difficult to get that. I would like to do that. Someone like a Rich Eisen. I love Rich Eisen. He's another one not coming to my mind.
Rich Eisen from the NFL Network.
Yeah,
open invitation to join us.
He's great. Ernie Johnson.
NBA.
I would love to have Ernie Johnson's job. Something like that would be great.
Where you're with a set of maybe former athletes, former players, and you get to communicate with them. I mean, and Ernie, he's multi-talented too, sports-wise. He does not just NBA, he does MLB.
Yep, he does the playoffs for TBS.
That's right. So he's a main anchor over there at Turner Network Sports. You're huge in basketball.
Yeah.
I joined your pod. You love basketball. Very knowledgeable about basketball. Loves to debate everything. What did Carmelo Anthony ever do to you?
He hurt me. He forced a trade to the Knicks, and I never wanted him on the Knicks. And, I fought with Knicks fans his whole tenure on the Knicks. And I like to say I am on the right side of history. So everybody who fought me about Carmelo Anthony coming to the Knicks, you lost the argument. I won, and I'm standing alone.
It would not be a good show if we didn't at least ask your feelings of Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the NBA a little bit. It's coming back soon. Your podcast returns soon.
Yeah.
Who in the NBA should we be looking out for this upcoming season as making a jump, a change? What are the storylines heading into this season? The storylines are the Celtics are healthy. If the Celtics can stay healthy, if they can challenge the Warriors in the finals, because I think that if the Celtics are healthy, they should, I wouldn't say easily make it to the finals, but they are definitely the heavy favorite in the East. And I think the Warriors, even though the Rockets just got Carmelo Anthony, I do think that they are still better than the Rockets, and it's going to be a Warriors-Celtics series, and I think for the first time in a while, the Warriors might be able to be challenged in the finals. Wow, this is news. And how about LeBron here in Los Angeles? We're out here in Los Angeles now. How does that affect the Lakers? I mean, the Lakers are definitely a playoff team now. I think they're definitely a playoff team. I think their ceiling is the Western Conference Finals. If I were to predict where they end up, they lose in the Western Conference semis to either the Warriors or Rockets, whoever they play in that round. Does your favorite team, the New York Knicks, make the playoffs this year? No, they're going to be terrible this year. That's okay. That's okay. Yeah, Porzingis is hurt. Your best player's hurt. Let's just see what you have in the young guys. Let's see what Frank can give us. Let's see what Kevin Knox can give us. What do you think they have in the young guys? I mean, I think Frank Ntilikina is a nice role player. I don't know if he's a starter, but he's someone I want to hold on to. He's good defensively. Kevin Knox had a really good summer. Are you excited for him? Yeah, I'm excited, but, the summer league is different than the regular season, so I want to see how he develops. And, let's clear some cap room. Let's go after Jimmy Butler and Kyrie Irving and see what happens. In an ideal world, it's Josh Rodriguez's fantasy NBA world. You make the decisions. How does the season, the offseason next year play out for the New York Knicks?
I think they get Kyrie and Jimmy Butler. You can combine him with Porzingis, and now you have a big three. You keep Frank on your team. Kevin Knox is there. He had a nice rookie season, and you have a core right there.
And then you're finally happy, you think?
Yeah, I think you have a good 4 to 5 years where you can seriously make some noise.
Okay, you heard it right there from an ultimate New York Knicks fan.
That's right.
Next offseason, it could be finally, they could be on the right track.
Yeah, this is the last season they're going to suck. I think they're going to make the playoffs years after that because they have enough cap room, and a lot of free agents are looking towards New York right now, which is awesome. For the first time in a while, a lot of free agents see it as a destination. So,
NBA, it's a 24/7 kind of 12 months a year
it
thing.
really
maybe
is.
At this point, maybe you say 11 months and they get a short break, but they've really done an incredible job of becoming popular mainstream, and there's always news.
Always.
Really incredible.
Always.
And you're covering it consistently. I'm excited to see how your podcast continues to grow, the Dime NBA. Let's talk about football before we let you out of here because it is football season.
Yeah.
You've got the Flex show that you're doing for the Fantasy Smack Talk guys, and you're telling everybody who should be in the Flex. Who are the players that you've been recommending?
It just depends because what people do is they come to me and they say, this is my team. Out of these 3 players, who should I start?
Oh.
So it's different. It depends on your fantasy team.
Okay.
I'm a huge person just in general. I like running backs. I think running backs are the most valuable position in fantasy football. So if you're going to ask me, who should I start in my flex, and one of them is a running back, I'm more likely to give you a running back as an answer. But you never know. It really just depends on the players. So for me, fantasy football-wise, someone who touches the ball, which are running backs, like 20, 25 times a game, they're more likely to score. It's all about probability and consistency. So
there you go. You heard it from Josh Rodriguez, and I'm telling you, I watched the segment, and the comments, people said you were telling them the right information.
Yeah.
They said that you're a natural, and very good information he's providing in your flex position in fantasy football. You could talk sports all day.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you could talk each different sport.
Yes.
In-depth, quality information, informative, enlightening, engaging. That's why I like talking to you in general. Thank you for joining Meet the Host.
Hi, thanks for having me, man.
I really appreciate having you. We would like to have you in the future for segments when we actually talk to hosts about trending topics on a different version of Meet the Host. We want you to come back for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime.
Thank you. You've got so much going on, guys. This is Josh Rodriguez. We can find him on social media at Josh_Rodriguez_.
Yep.
The Dime NBA.
Yep, at the Dime NBA.
On
and
Twitter.
On iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, anything, Android phone, Stitcher. Just search The Dime with Josh Rodriguez. I'll come up.
And when you search for that, you'll be able to find all of his other stuff like his fantasy flex information and links to all that as well.
And episode 2 of The Dimes with this guy.
Episode 2, that's the one you really check out. And then you may never listen to me again. No, just kidding. Thanks so much to Josh Rodriguez for joining us on another episode of Meet the Host. My name is Mike Rippe. I am the host of Meet the Host, and you can catch me on social media at Mike Rips. You can catch the show at Meet the Host on Twitter, Instagram. Follow us on Facebook. Subscribe to us on YouTube as well as iTunes. We're now a podcast. We'll be there. Maybe you can't see us, but you can always listen to Meet the Host, where we flip the script on the host. We ask them the questions they're used to asking their guests. We hear all about a new sort of angle in the hosting industry. Meet the Host, it is your resource for all hosting news, information, and valuable tidbits from the hosts themselves. Thanks so much for joining us on another episode of Meet the Host. We'll talk to you soon.